mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, where I watch shit so you don't have to. And today I'm here to talk about Season 2, Episode 7 of Hulu's Only Murders in the Building, entitled Flipping the Pieces. I think the titles, I don't think it's obvious, it is pretty obvious. Mabel mentions it directly, but I like how the title doesn't just refer to Mabel and her father bonding over puzzles, and he wants to make it more challenging. He's like, let's not use the box. Now let's flip the pieces over so you can't even see the pictures, and then we're just going off the shapes. It plays up to that, her relationship with her father, but more importantly, it speaks to her defense mechanisms and how she manages grief. Because we talk about, I didn't write this shit. They talk about how Mabel, when her father was dying, when she realized her father was dying from cancer, that she kind of did an internal flipping of the pieces and kind of removed that imagery from her mind. So that kind of bearing of traumatic memories, she's concerned, has affected her ability to remember crimes that she might have committed present day. She doesn't know. She's starting to question if she actually did stab Bunny. She looks at the video that Theo shows her of her stabbing the killer on the subway, and she's like, thinking like, I might have actually done this, which immediately made me debunk my own theory that Mabel might have done it. As soon as the person that I suspect says, starts to either feel like they might have committed the crime, or the show starts to tell me they might have committed the crime, I immediately banish that person as a potential option. But I like the flipping the pieces and that dual meaning of not just a literal perspective of flipping pieces over to make a puzzle harder, but also kind of like flipping over these mental pieces, these things that could make up who you are, but you flip over the pieces that might create a person that's not so great, and you kind of banish those things from your memory. And I like how they did that with Mabel in this episode. But the episode split into two stories. We spend most of our time with Mabel in this episode. Charles and Oliver don't get a lot of time, but continuing with Mabel, she wakes up after the subway scene in Theo's apartment. Apparently he was on the same train as her and saw her get attacked. He saw the whole thing. The killer took her bag, but dropped a work badge for Coney Island. Coney Island now, it's an amusement park in New York, but here in Detroit, it's a chain of restaurants in the hood where you can get anything under the sun. It's greasy and delicious, and you go there after the club at 3 o'clock in the morning. The best ones in the hood, we all know about them. The term Coney Island is close to my heart. But they head to Coney Island, and they look through these work files that are there, trying to figure out who this guy is. She mentions that, talking about the flipping over the pieces again, and the bearing of these memories, she's concerned, and she's like, I don't know if I'm somebody who just goes into a fugue state and kills people. And that, of course, made me think of, if you're a fan, it made me think of Walter White and Breaking Bad, which the way things are tying together these past few days is weird. I had Sunday, I had Westworld, and Westworld had, what was the connection there? There was something with Westworld that connected to Better Call Saul, where I'm like, oh, it was because I'm getting two consecutive days of Aaron Paul. Aaron Paul's on Westworld, and then Aaron Paul and Bryan Cranston made cameos on Better Call Saul last night, and then now I have this fugue state mention, which is now, to me, is a Breaking Bad callback. So I'm like, I just had 3 days of Breaking Bad kind of like inadvertently. But neither here nor there, continuing on. They bond over the idea of them not being sure if they committed their crimes. I've already talked about Mabel, but Theo shares that, he thinks about what happened to Zoe every night or every morning. I can't remember which one. I think he said every night before he goes to bed. And he doesn't know for sure if he pushed her or if she just slipped. And I like them bonding over the idea of salvaging relationships with their fathers. We see Mabel's situation, and she kind of lashes out at her father, not knowing what's going on with him. Then she kind of buries that memory. And it's like, at the time that might feel like a smart defense mechanism to bury that traumatic memory. But then at the same time, it's like that's your last moment with your dad, and you don't really have that memory, even though it's shitty. Like, I feel the same way. I have fuzzy memories throughout my entire life. A lot of that's probably due to drinking. But I remember my father's last moments in fucking 4K. So, not having that moment, I think that has damaged her a little bit. So she gives Theo that advice, like, salvage things with Teddy. So I like the fact that they bonded over that. That was a good aspect of this episode too, which this episode didn't have a lot of the comedy that from Charles and Oliver that the last one did. So this one didn't even really give too much information on who the killer might be. It just I don't know. It was just stuff happening. I think when you have a show like this and you have these 10 episodes, you can get to a point where it's like, I maybe have 8 episodes of really relevant content, and then I got 2 episodes where I kind of got to drag it out. This felt kind of like a filler almost, but I love this show so much, and I love spending time with these characters that I didn't mind it. But yeah, it felt a little bit filler. So where was I? Mabel hides in the locker at this spot in Coney Island, and the killer is in this locker room, and we see the killer remove a patch from where he got stabbed at. He's holding like a first aid kit. Mabel makes a sound inside the locker, which kind of alerts him to her presence. She bursts out, hits him, takes her bag, leaves. Her and Theo escape, which I thought was odd because I'm like, they 2-on-1. Like, I don't know. Even if you're Theo and you're like, oh, do I want to take on this guy? It's like, oh, and then I have a girl with me. I don't know if she's gonna be, willing to really do anything great. Like, I kind of feel like you take that shot. Like, this guy's at work. He's stabbed. Like, he probably doesn't have a weapon. If he does, like, I don't know. I feel like they could have took him 2-on-1, but whatever. While digging through her bag, Mabel finds, she finds her phone, sees all the missed calls from Charles and Oliver. Actually, I think they were just from Charles. The matchbook is not in there, so the killer has kept the matchbook. But she does find a picture of Charles and Lucy together. And I think that's interesting because, 1, I feel like that means that the killer put that there. 2, that means this person is watching to be taking these pictures, or they're working with somebody who's watching. And then 3, this is another piece of evidence to add to the pile of the killer clearly has it out for Charles. And I think that's how we're going to figure this out. Although I'm going to talk about this in a moment. I'm a little concerned about our ability to figure this out. So Mabel talks about the what I just said about the flipping of the pieces and how she's buried these memories, and she apparently flipped a switch to where she can remember shit now, which is stretches to a great degree the lengths of plausibility. But I'll let it go. But like, if you're somebody who buried a traumatic memory, you can't just go, I'm gonna remember that now. Like that's not how it works. But that's how it works for Mabel apparently, and she decides she's gonna remember, and we see the scene of her going into her apartment, and we see the killer escaping, and I'm assuming he's going into her bedroom to go through that grate to go into the walls, and then Bunny comes out already stabbed, and she goes, Bunny, in like in a very caring kind of way, and then Bunny falls out. So we see that memory. So like I mentioned, the other storyline involves Charles and Oliver. It's I wouldn't even call it a B plot. That's just like an F plot. And I don't mean F like is in a bad grade. I just mean like this episode was about Mabel. They just had Charles and Oliver in it because they're like, okay, we can't have an episode without Steve Martin and Martin Short in it, so we're gonna put him in here. But they didn't get too much time, but they meet with Detective Williams, who is back from, where was she at, Denver or something like that? She's back from there, and she pops up at their crib with her baby because, she was on maternity leave. She pops up with her baby because she's just can't get this case out of her mind. And I want to talk about Detective Williams for a little bit because I do not like this character. It's like when she's trying to be a good cop and trying to be relatable and, like, help me help you, perfectly fine. But the way she just pops up immediately mad as fuck just really irritates me. Like, why does she have an attitude all the time immediately? Like, the angry black woman thing is not, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of it in real life, and I'm not a fan of it as a stereotype that's portrayed in television or film. Like, it's just, she's just so over. So, like, if she got angry and came off as an angry black woman, I'd at least be like, well, at least she has a reason to be angry. She shows up and is angry just before you even open the door. She's angry. And I'm like, oh, that's so off-putting. But Oliver helps her with her baby, and they hand over the knife. There's a a nice little bit of comedy in there, which I'll get to in a moment when I get to my thoughts. But these two didn't get too much time. Not a lot of progress on their front. We still don't know the results of this paternity test, which now this has been dragged out for 2 episodes. That's interesting. But there are a couple good moments in the Charles and Oliver storyline. I love how he said "my probably boy," referring to his kid. I love Oliver's face when Charles is like, "You could search Mabel's apartment. You could search my apartment. You could search Oliver's apartment for the night." And Oliver makes a face like, "Shit." Like, have you seen the meme of the one guy? It's like a rap battle, and somebody says something. He looks all like, well, like, oh shit. Like, that's kind of the face Oliver made, and it's because Oliver hasn't gotten rid of the knife yet. And then he goes into the bathroom, and then we can hear him from outside the bathroom. We being the audience, Charles and Detective Williams, talking to like the trap door thing that he's trying to slide over that Lucy found. And then they have another great moment where Charles goes in there and they're talking about it, and Detective Williams can hear them outside, and then she's right up next to the door, and I'm like, please don't try to tell me that she didn't hear this conversation, even though her ears pressed up against the door. But they didn't. And then I love when she leaves after Oliver did everything to help make her baby fart, because he was saying he had, gas in the belly after eating, which is common amongst kids. I got a 4th one on the way, so trust me, I know. I like how she's walking out, and then she sings in like full-on black woman swag, and then goes like, "I don't fucking know," chorus line. I was like, okay. I thought that was kind of cool. So 12 minutes in, I want to wrap up with a couple of thoughts that I have that pertain to not just the show, but also who I think is the killer. Not just who I think is the killer, but the show as a whole and the season as a whole. I wonder if the struggle to communicate between Mabel and Theo is going to come back. The only reason I ask is they leaned into that really heavy, especially at the beginning, like her going, "I don't understand ASL," and then he's just like signing to her over and over, and then he tells her, he gives her that card, like, "I can only understand 1 out of every 3 words you say," or something like that. And she's just talking regular. I'm just like, why are they, like, do like a voice to text or something? But they leaned into that pretty hard, and it ended up with them kind of like bonding over her trying to learn how to say something. And I don't know. I'm just wondering if that's going to come back. So normally on these videos, I do what did we learn this week? We didn't learn too much. And I don't necessarily have a new alternate theory, but I'm gonna read some things that I've been kind of throwing around in my head, and you guys can let me know in the comments what you think. So we know the killer works in an amusement park now. We know that the killer knows Bunny since he met with her at the restaurant, at the diner, and that's also where he took the matches. Why would he take matches? Of note. We also know he's allergic to stuff. We heard him sneeze in the hallway. We also know that he wears like weird safety stuff, because when he went to kill Bunny, we saw he had on like rubber gloves, like rubber boots, like safety clothes. We see him at Coney Island. Seemingly, he's holding a first aid kit. He seems to have correctly tended to his own wounds. We see him like, take off like a bandage off of his wounds. It makes me wonder, is he a firefighter or an EMT, something like that? And because if you think about it, all right, they got the message to get out of the building at the end of season 1 when all the cops were coming there because Bunny had been killed. You could kind of assume that also maybe a fire truck, almost certainly an EMT, an ambulance, would have shown up there. So there's a possibility that the killer was a firefighter or an EMT and ended up there. That would explain why he's able to patch up his own wounds. It doesn't really explain the safety stuff, but the firefighter thing does, because that could have been maybe some of his firefighter gear. That could be why he took matches. Maybe he's just into fire. I don't know. But what else did I have here? Being a firefighter could potentially explain how he knows about the passageways. I don't know if firefighters get like blueprints to buildings or anything like that. I would think that they would, so that way if you go to save somebody, you can, if it's a public building, you can know how to navigate it quickly. Like, I know exactly where I need to go to get here, as opposed to walking in there and there's a fire and just like, what the fuck's going on? Like, I feel like they might get building plans, so maybe he would know that. I don't know. My concern here is that now there are 3 episodes left. They've successfully done what they did last year by putting a new person in the viewers' crosshairs every week. But I'm starting to wonder now, especially if I'm right about this person being like a firefighter or an EMT or something like that, and this was somebody who showed up on the night that Bunny was killed. Maybe they're related to Bunny in some way, and not related as in like family, but like have some sort of relation with Bunny in some way. So seeing her there dead, especially if you had just seen her the day before, might have been, well, no, that would have been the killer. So maybe that would have been the opportunity to go do that. Like, I don't know, but I'm concerned that whoever the same thing's going to happen this season. At the end, when the killer is revealed, it's something we never could have guessed. And all the preceding 9 episodes were kind of a waste of time in trying to figure out who the killer was. I mean, it's not a waste of time in that it's fun, and I really love this show. So I enjoy spending time with these characters. I don't ever feel like it was a waste of time being there, but I don't like the idea of participating this heavily in this whodunit to never have a chance. And if the person ends up being a firefighter, even if it's somebody we don't know, I'm going to count that as a win, since I said that here and I provided some evidence on why they might be a firefighter or an EMT. But then we got to think about the Alice connection too. So I don't know. There's a lot to wonder about. And then there's a blackout at the end. What's up with, like, how is that going to tie in? Again, would that be something that a firefighter might have control over, where they might know how to black out a section of a city to do something, especially if the plan involves Lucy, who just so happens to be in Charles' apartment? How convenient is that, right? Because at first I thought maybe it's connected to Theo plugging his ankle bracelet in, but I'm like, no, he's already gone. He wouldn't short out a whole city doing that. But I don't really know what the relevance is unless it's an intentional thing meant to be able to do something else in the Arconia, potentially to get after Lucy. And it's feasible that the killer could know that Lucy is there because we already know that he watches Charles and Lucy, or watches Charles, and clearly has it out for Charles. So, yeah, I don't know. I wonder if it's somebody, some firefighter or EMT or something like that, who was either hurt by Charles or hurt by Charles' father, who we know was gallivanting around betting everybody and getting new paintings done. What did Oliver call his balls? Man, I gotta remember that shit. Whatever Oliver called his balls was hilarious. He was like, did I just make up that term? And I'm like, I need to start using that. And I didn't start using it. Shame on me. All right, well, I'm gonna wrap this one up. Again, not too much happened here. I do feel like this was a little bit of a episode that was kind of filler. I do have concerns about whether or not the killer is going to be somebody we could have guessed at any point. But at the end of the day, the show is still wildly funny. It's wildly interesting. I love the look of it. I love the music. I love everything about the show. And I enjoy my time spent with these characters. So I will see you guys next week for episode 8. And until then, peace.